Wait, can somebody else?
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Long Islander podcast. Today we're going to be discussing MLB team options, the new Clayton Kershaw deal that just broke, Maryland football, and then we're going to get into our NFL picks. So without any further ado, say hi, Vin.
Hola, Vicente.
And say hi, Justin.
Hey guys, how's it going?
That's right, folks. For the first time in a while, we are going to go on 3 different screens. Hopefully, this will come out good. Don't worry. In the future, we're going to be back to our 2-screen system where Justin and I sit on the floor of my apartment. But let's start off with the MLB options. That sound good, guys?
Yeah, I don't think I had an option.
No, Vin. Unlike Cole Hamels, you don't have an option.
So which one of you two are reading off who accepted? Because I don't have it up in front of me.
I'll read them because that way you two can talk about them. How's that sound?
Oh, okay. Very, very good planning.
Because, you guys are much more baseball guys than I am, so I think that'll work out well. So we'll start off with the big boy, Cole Hamels, former Philly, gets his option picked up by the Cubs, so he's going to be staying there. Your thoughts?
I'll go first because I butted in before him. So I think this is smart. Chicago needs starting pitching, and they get that. They just traded away Drew Smyly today also to the Rangers, and he hasn't been in the MLB. So they're going to get some salary cap relief. I think their 2019 salary right now is over $200 million, so they're not going to be big players in free agents. So I think getting their starting rotation, get you Darvish healthy, and sticking with the rotation they have, I think that would be the best situation for them because they already have a good lineup.
Okay. Justin?
Yeah. It definitely helps their pitching rotation. I mean, any opportunity you get to take Tyler Chatwood off the mound as a starting pitcher is a win.
Debatable.
And I know the next name we're going to talk about is Jose Quintana, but just the two of them, I'll just combine the two of them. The two of them really bolsters up your starting rotation, helps you out. Like Vince said, they have a really good lineup already. Pitching was a big problem for them in the early part of last year before they were able to get Hamels. I think if Hamels and Quintana just pitch the way that they can, I think they have an opportunity to make a really big, to make a really deep playoff run this year.
Vin, you want to jump on Quintana while the train's moving?
I like Quintana. I think he could be a big factor for this team in a playoff run, especially coming off a year where they didn't even make it out of the wild card round.
I would say, to have a playoff run, you got to win at least one game.
Yeah, well, the way MLB is, they count playoffs as making the wild card. I don't agree with that, but they do that, and I mean, it's kind of obvious. They weren't going to be big players in free agency, so keep the guys you can.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about then probably, not at all surprising, but someone that unfortunately has to stay where he is. Paul Goldschmidt staying in Arizona for another year. Justin?
So, I mean, it's obviously a no-brainer. It's for 14.5. Paul Goldschmidt, obviously pretty much the face of your organization. I mean, he's great. I have heard through the grapevine that there may be some interest in maybe trading him away. But right now, I guess they just want to see if they can get anything for him without just letting him walk in free agency. So, I mean, if they keep him, great. He's a great bat, great defender. If they get traded away, hopefully they get some young prospects, hopefully start a rebuild.
All right, Vin, you got anything to say on this matter?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Justin has better sources than I do because my sources didn't tell me that yet. So, good job, man. But yeah, I mean, really, what was the Diamondbacks gonna do besides this? They get the team option. They're gonna control a guy who, if they don't trade away, is a potential of being an all-star and an MVP candidate every year. I mean, his at-bats are pretty good every at-bat. You never really see him try to overdo his role. And he's a pretty good defensive first baseman. I do think he's going to be traded by spring training. And I think the Diamondbacks are just going to reset with Corbin probably leaving, Goldschmidt. I think they're just going to try to do a reset and try to rebuild. But I think at this point, it's the smartest move to do is just keep your guys that you can and then use them as trade assets.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Vin. I think the Diamondbacks, they got to do something because what they're doing isn't working. They haven't won a playoff game in how long,
Yeah, a couple of years.
I mean, they beat the Rockies last year, but if you're in that division, you have to face so much talent. You've had to face so many other teams that have won World Series or gone to the World Series just in the past couple of years alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of which, let's talk about former World Series MVP Madison Bumgarner getting his option picked up by the San Francisco Giants.
I mean, this was probably one of the easiest moves that San Francisco had to make this year. They didn't want to trade him. They're obviously going to pick him up. Maybe they trade him at the deadline this year because this is a contract year. They see what they can get. Maybe they make a move because you don't know if he's going to walk in free agency. I mean, it's a no-brainer if you're the Giants and Mad Bum. You have to pick it up. So it was an obvious move.
Yeah, I mean, they're in one of the toughest divisions in baseball, the NL West, right now. They didn't really get much out of Johnny Cueto this year, so I think having Mad Bum to be the top of your rotation, if you're not going to trade him right away, is something they have to do.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just to jump because I have the stuff up in front of me, too, right now. Pablo Sandoval there, too, is just going to be a lot of fun for Giants fans. Get that nostalgia feeling of when they were in the World Series and winning it every other year.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of teams paying Pablo Sandoval, then why don't we bring up Chris Sale and the Boston Red Sox?
So this was the easiest move in the world. I mean, he helped pitch you to 108 wins. I don't know how far the Red Sox make it without him this season. I don't know how they're going to do without him next season. And especially with David Price saying, I'm not leaving, you get Chris Sale to say, or Chris Sale to stay. And now your front two in the rotation are the same as last year. So you know what? The road to a repeat, I guess they feel starts with pitching. So what better way to start that than with your two top starters coming back?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much expecting Joe Kelly to leave, Craig Kimbrell. So how the Red Sox really did this whole playoff run was great starting pitching. And you have practically the exact same starting five coming back. You do that, your offense is still heavy, and you're really set. I mean, I think they're going to take a step back from 108. I think that's pretty logical to think at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And
they just played out of their minds.
Yeah, I mean, really, I don't think they won the division last year without Chris Sale.
I agree with that, yeah.
So it was pretty much the easiest move, as you were saying, Justin. It's pretty much the easiest move out of every team so far.
Exactly. It's the easiest move to make in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, so those are all the big fish. We got some other guys where their options were picked up with Sean Doolittle, Carlos Carrasco, Justin Smoke, and Fernando Rodney. But, if you haven't even won a playoff game in the past 2 years, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about you. I know you tried Cleveland, but no. So then we look at some of the ones that were declined. I don't think any of these are really setting the world on fire. Brian McCann getting declined from Houston. I think they just realized they have a better young catcher now. But I don't know if you guys have anything you want to say as he is a former Yankee.
Yeah, I'll go first. So I think just really, as you were saying, John, there's really not a spot for him at this point in a Houston team. He is a veteran, so I think he can be a nice backup for a team, but his health has been questionable the past couple of years, and there's really not a spot for him in Houston right now. So I think he could go to like a lower level team I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up with the Marlins at this point.
Justin?
I mean, Brian McCann, his offense isn't going to set the world on fire, so I don't think he can really make it as DH in the AL. So back to Vin's point about him possibly being a backup catcher. I mean, yeah, every team could use a backup catcher. And especially one that brings a veteran presence that Brian McCann does. And that winning mentality. I mean, he won the World Series with Houston. I just think it's a good move if you can. He's going to be. So I think it's a good move if you can bring in Brian McCann, because he also helps you defensively with your younger catchers. He's that mentor that you want. He's that mentor that you need. So I think it's going to be a good pickup for anyone that can get him, as long as it's cheap, because you don't want to overpay for an old catcher that can barely hit anymore.
All right, and looking at someone that's been trying to get out of the contract and the team that he's been on for a little while, you look at Josh Harrison with Pittsburgh getting his option declined.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Josh Harrison is someone who I think could really make a big splash in free agency. There's teams, and I know people are just going to be like, oh, you're just saying this because you're a Yankee fan, but I mean, the Yankees are looking for a second baseman. And if I'm the Yankees, I'm seriously considering Josh Harrison. He's good defensively. He's a great bat in your lineup, especially in the Yankees ballpark. You could always move Glaber over to short, put him at second. I think he's going to be one of the more underrated free agent signings for a team that decides to get him this year.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off of Justin, I do think the Yankees are a pretty decent landing spot for Harrison. I don't want to be a predictions podcast on where every free agent is going to end up going, except for the big guys, if we want to do that. But
we'll do that later, Vin, once we find out who's staying where.
Yeah, but I think a team that he could go to is the other team in New York. I think the Mets need some middle infield help. I think his services could be a lot of places. He's a pretty good defensive player, and getting out of Pittsburgh will probably be one of the best decisions of his career at this point, after Pittsburgh is basically stripping everybody that's been on their team for a few years and just resetting. Yeah, so I think, they're going full rebuild. So I think it's just good. Harrison is going to be valued by a lot of teams that know they're not going to be in the Machado or Harper sweepstakes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on to, I think this is the last kind of notable one of these guys that we can talk about is James Shields.
Big game, James.
Big game, James.
Anything else to say about him, guys?
All right, I'll go first. James Shields is someone you heard a lot about earlier in his career, and now he's kind of just fallen off, I want to say. I feel like you just don't hear much about him. I think he's definitely going to be a good pickup for any team that can get him. He's a solid pitcher. He's a veteran pitcher. He's not what he was when he was younger, but I mean, you could say that about any pitcher almost. But just, I think any team that can get him and not overpay for him, I think they're going to be happy with what they get. He's a good 3, 4, 5 starter in your rotation. Definitely helps bolster up a failing rotation. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a part of a lot of losing seasons in his career. He's been a part of the Rays when they were trying to get to the point they were. I believe he was on the 2008 team, if I remember correctly. But they have that, and then he went to the White Sox, who haven't really been doing much as of late. So I think a veteran pitcher with a young pitching staff, I think that would be his most effective role. I think he has a chance as a 4-5. I don't think necessarily a 3, but I think I understand where you were going at, Justin.
Yeah.
I think he has to pitch in the AL, though. I don't think he's going to be an NL type of guy.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. He's definitely an AL pitcher. I mean, that's what he's been around pretty much his entire career. So I don't think you want to put him in the NL right now. I think he's just as comfortable as he can be in the AL, and he knows the ballparks, he knows the players, knows the matchups. I think that's where he's going to thrive.
All right. Well, aside from guys that with these interesting little team options, we can talk about the brand new deal. Clayton Kershaw ends up signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. What do you guys think about this?
Vin, you want to take this one first?
All right, yeah, I'll go first. I think this was a pretty much a no-brainer move by the Dodgers. I think they really had to make this deal. He has been their pitcher, and they really have to keep going. I mean, they're World Series favorites again in the NL right now. They just coming off of 2 straight losses in the World Series. Keep your ace pitcher, even though I'm not very high on him, as you could tell in the past few weeks. But I think they're giving him the money that they would have had to give to Machado if they decided to do it. It's $31 million a year. It's a lot of money, but there's really not very great pitching options on the market. So I think keeping Kershaw as your ace is the best deal that the Dodgers could have done.
Yeah, I mean, so you're paying him 3 years, $93 million. I mean, like Vin said, I think it was a no-brainer if you're the Dodgers. He's so important to that team, and he's been the backbone of that rotation for like as long as I can remember. And he's so effective. I think you need to keep that going forward if you actually want to win the World Series, not just make it and lose. So that way you don't end up like the Buffalo Bills, going to 4 straight and losing all of them. But I think I've always said that the key to winning a championship is pitching. If your pitching is good, the rest will fall into place. I think the Dodgers really stand by that, because now they have Buehler, they have Kershaw. I mean, you have Wood. Maybe he comes back another year. We'll see.
Yeah, the only issue I really have with this is that he's an old 30 years old in baseball. He has a lot of miles on his arm.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the only place that I could really have seen him leaving and going to was if he would have gone to the Rangers. And at that point, it's kind of like you just gave up on winning. The only reason you do it is for the money. So staying in LA, it's kind of the best opportunity for him. I mean, maybe if he had a more competent manager, he'd do better. You could say that. But at the same time, he's not a great postseason pitcher, but he does great in the regular season. So if the goal is just to bring people to the games and sit in the seats and watch them, he's still your guy. He's still one of the best pitchers in baseball for the regular season. He just doesn't have it as a clutch gene. I mean, we saw David Price was able to rebound this year. You never know if Kershaw could find a way to rebound in the next year or two. But I think we've talked enough about baseball. Let's start off with a little bit.
There was news today that came out. There was just one news that came out, very unnewsworthy news. That something you would like, John. I don't know if you heard about this. The cover of next year's MLB The Show. I
don't want to talk about it because it's Bryce Harper wearing a windbreaker because they don't know what team he's going to be on yet.
They could have done like LeBron for NBA 2K and just keep him in the jersey he was in. So just keep him in a Washington National jersey, and then just let the cover just live out. I
mean, the thing is, they did it with Kyrie because he was a Cav, and then ends up going to the Celtics. This year with LeBron, he just has like a black jersey where it's like strive for greatness. But the thing with Bryce Harper is he didn't even have a good season. It's a popularity contest, really. Like Aaron Judge won it last year, and I thought he deserved it because he's an exciting player bringing people into baseball. But Bryce Harper is just a douche.
Well, I think it's just marketability at this point.
I mean, I get that, but at the same time, it's like, do we really need this guy to be the one? I mean, I know he is one of the most notable people, and honestly, maybe they have something planned where they're going to talk about, like, oh, well, there's going to be different editions depending on where he signs. I don't know. But
they announced that. So they said right now that was just the announcement because he is a free agent. But when he signs, they're actually like the real cover is going to be him in whatever uniform he's like of the team that he signed with. So that was just them like just showing like, hey, Bryce Harper's the new cover athlete. But then as soon as he signs somewhere, they're going to update it with his new jersey. Or if he still somehow, some way stays with the Nationals, then he's going to be back in the Nationals jersey for that cover.
I mean, honestly, if we're going to start talking about video games, I don't know how far we're really going to get, considering we're supposed to be a real sports podcast.
Well,
too.
no, that news came out today, so I just wanted to throw that in there.
But since we're going to keep talking about sports that aren't real, we're going to talk about Maryland football.
Hey, look, you're on my train of NCAA football not really counting.
Some of it does, some of it doesn't. This is on the side of does not.
Yeah, so in case you somehow have been missing this, Maryland, they had a player die on the field in June, I believe it was, May or June.
It was June.
Okay, it was June.
Yeah.
The strength and conditioning coach was fired because of it, because they didn't get adequate help for the player at time after the investigative report came out. They reinstated the coach. After backlash, they fired the coach. The president of the university, I believe it is, resigned today or yesterday. And he was set to retire anyway, so it's not really big that he's stepping down after this. But since I was the one that really mentioned this, I just wanted to get your opinion on not really if Maryland and them are in the wrong, but should teams just stick to their reasoning and not deal with the social media outcry and try to be the hero? Hey, we did exactly what you guys wanted us to do. And because they made a decision on Tuesday, I believe, to keep the coach.
Yeah. Well, I'm of the mindset that the coach never should have even been rehired to begin with. I mean, you have a player die, and you handle this about as bad as you could ever possibly imagine to handle this situation. So then the Board of Regents reinstates the coach. The players walk out. They walk out of meetings saying no, we obviously don't want this guy as coach. And now everyone's running around like a chicken without a head over at Maryland. And there's oh, well, you know what? He's gone. We're not bringing him back ever. But the fact still remains was that you still thought it was a good idea to bring him back in the first place. So now Maryland's kind of a dumpster fire situation. I mean, it's going to be tough for whatever coach or whatever coach is hired there, because he's going to be under one of the biggest microscopes in college football right from the start. As soon as he signs that paper saying, yeah, I'll coach here, he's under the biggest microscope.
John, do you have any thoughts on it?
The only thought I have about Maryland football is that Temple University beat them this year, I believe. Let's see. Let's see what that score was. That score was 35-14. That's all I have to say on the matter. I don't care about Maryland football. I'm sorry that kid died. It truly is a tragedy. But if we're going to start caring about Maryland football and their coaches, they'd have to play and actually be competent in their conference. That's about it.
All right. Well, since John is very heartless on the subject, I think really the fact is that if this coach was winning, so I'm kind of going on John's train of thought here. If the coach was winning, then hey, you can defend him if you want what his actions were, but he wasn't winning. So what is the point of trying to keep this whole? Hey, we're gonna keep him no matter what, and then just really keep your back and just saying, hey, we don't care at this point. We're gonna keep him, even if everybody says we shouldn't, and then ending up releasing him anyway. If it's Urban Meyer or Nick Saban coaching there, I understand. But it's not. It's a very incompetent coach that hasn't really had a lot of success in his tenure there. And really, he wasn't worth the public backlash.
I agree with that. I mean, he wasn't worth it. He's not winning enough to really, warrant. I'm not going to say warrant caring, but I mean, still, the biggest thing here was that a football player died, and they blamed the coach, and it was his fault. And then you're going to rehire him, even though you determined he was a part of what happened. So, it's more the incompetence of it, not the fact that, he wasn't winning, so why care in the first place? It's more of, how could you be so dumb as to say, so we're going to bring him back. He said, no, you're fired because you were responsible for this student dying.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the independent report, they said he was some blame, but some blame is enough blame if somebody's dying on your watch. I think Bill Belichick had a quote about this a while ago, saying that as a head coach, you're responsible for everything that happens on this team 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in college. I mean, we're in college now, all three of us. So, I mean, we're not always making the greatest decisions and really thinking about the consequences. So imagine when an adult is telling you how to do it and making the wrong decision for you. I think he had to be gone. I didn't think there was going to be a chance he was going to stay. When they said he was reinstated, I was shocked.
Oh, yeah, no, me too. I was out, and I just, stopped what I was doing. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, even the AD or the president, I forgot exactly who it was set to retire at the end of this academic year. So really, at that point, why just not be the guy who's going to say, hey, I'm not having this on my last year. If they're going to fire me out of the university, I'm retiring at the end anyway. So it doesn't really affect me too much.
Yeah. All right. So, do you have more, Justin? Do you have more on this?
Yeah, I was just going to say one quick thing. I don't know if you guys saw the press conference that the president of the university had given after all of this had, come out, the first time, when it first happened. He took a trip to the family, to the students' parents, and was, talking with them, saying, we're so sorry this happened. This should never have happened. We're going to put measures in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And then I feel like in one big move, you completely negate everything you say by hiring him back. I mean, I have strong feelings about this, obviously, but yeah, that's it. Let's just move on.
Okay, before we get any more lost in things that really in stupid, meaningless football, let's get into the football that everyone actually cares about. Let's get into the NFL games this week. So, start off.
Wait, updated standings.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm starting with. Start off. Vin's brief, not dethroning, but shared throning of first place. It lasted only a few days as Justin, for some reason, thought the Oakland Raiders were going to be able to cover a 1.5 point spread. They were unable to. They couldn't even win the game. San Francisco blew them out big thanks to Nick Mullins played it out of his mind. 3 touchdowns.
In my defense, did anybody actually expect that to happen?
I did. That's why I picked him.
Yep.
No, you didn't. You didn't even know that Beathard wasn't going to play until I mentioned it.
No, I knew it was 50-50. I just didn't know he wasn't actually playing.
I thought he might play, but here's the thing. The Raiders are terrible. They traded their best player.
But, John, everybody wants to play for the Raiders. He's getting phone calls by everybody.
Raiders.
You didn't hear that?
I heard it. I heard it. But it's not true, and I don't think a single person wants to.
He's getting calls from 6-year-olds saying, hey, I want to be a Raider.
Yeah, and those 6-year-olds are probably his next pass rush. At least that's the hope, considering he has a 10-year contract.
Yeah.
I would say that's great.
But in the words of The Rock, I am number 1 in the game and number 1 in your hearts.
So, to reflect the current standings, Vin has a 1-game lead on Justin, and I am now only 2 games down, thanks to some thankful covers, let's call it. So I am somehow only 2 games back.
We wanted to make it interesting, so we let you come back in.
I've rebounded from some terrible picks. Kickers, they didn't let me down nearly as much this week.
They could stay for another week.
So for this week, we will allow kickers to stay. And we're going to start off in a game where I don't know who the kicker even is because both of them were on Justin's fantasy team at one point. We're talking about the Atlanta Falcons. are headed into Washington.
Go to Vecchio. Matt Bryant is officially out.
Oh, I just saw Matt Bryant.
All right, so we have the Atlanta Falcons heading into Washington, where Washington is currently a 1.5-point favorite at home.
All right, I'll go first. First off, this Redskins team is just getting so much disrespect from Vegas. I mean, they had the game against the Giants where they barely were favorites, and now they are at home against an Atlanta Falcons team that isn't doing much this year, and they're barely favorites. I'm gonna go with HTTR. Hail to the Redskins. I think they're just doing too much at this point. They added HaHa Clinton Dix, so that'll help out with covering Julio at the end of the day. And I really think that people are just underestimating this Redskins team still somehow.
Justin?
I mean, I think that the Washington Redskins are a good team, but I don't know that they're as good as everyone says they are. I still have trouble believing it. I don't know what it is. I just don't have faith in them.
Oh, maybe it's that flag behind you.
I mean, still. Yeah, they're ahead of the division. But let's be real. The NFC East is really bad. It's one of the weakest divisions in football when it used to be like the powerhouse where one game separated everybody. Now you have the Giants who are 1-7, but I'm getting off track. But I think the spread reflects the fact that you are playing Matt Ryan. So Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, and I think Mohamed Sanu still playing. So you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say Atlanta. I'm going to take Atlanta.
Well, yeah, I hate to do this, but I'm going to agree with Vin here. I think this is just your Eagles bias coming out because the Washington Redskins team this year has played very well. Their defense has looked fantastic at times. Earlier in the season, they were ranked the #1 pass defense in all of football, and now they added HaHa Clinton Dix. So I'm going with Vin here. I'm taking Washington. I think Justin's just salty about the fact that the Eagles are still second in the division, and also that he has Matt Ryan in fantasy this week, and he's very hopeful.
I'm starting Phillip Rivers.
All right. Well, he's starting Phillip Rivers anyway. So going from a quarterback who has played two quarterbacks who have played very well throughout their careers, I would say, in Matt Ryan and Alex Smith. We'll go to a quarterback that, according to Vin, is the worst quarterback in the league currently, and Mitchell Trubisky heading into Buffalo to face who is Buffalo starting at quarterback this week before I even say this?
It looked like Nathan Peterman's getting his job back.
All right, yeah. So Nathan Peterman has his job back. So given that, and Vin, before I tell you the spread, is Mitchell Trubisky the worst quarterback in this game?
I want to say I said that at the beginning of the season, and I meant it. I said it incorrectly. So I thought Chicago was the worst quarterback situation. I figured the Bills had a future in Josh Allen, but he's remained injured. So I think I could say he's one of the worst, but not the worst at this moment.
All right, Vin, you're going to start backtracking. That's the first step to admitting you were wrong is saying it out loud. So the spread is Chicago favored by 10 on the road in Buffalo.
Let Justin go first. I gotta do some very advanced research.
Justin?
I'm gonna go. I gotta go with Chicago. You have to. I mean, the Bills just look bad. There's no sugarcoating it. They just do not look good at all. So, I mean, you got to go with the Bears. I think Trubisky's better. I mean, Trey Burton's great. Allen Robinson. I'm not sure if Allen Robinson's playing this week. I know he was on the injury report earlier. Worth an eye on. But I think just overall, I think Cohen and Howard, I think they have too many weapons that the Bills don't have to stop. So,
All right, and Vin?
All right. So I've just completed my extensive research. Buffalo has been within 10 points of a game twice this season. They're one win and
Hey, they have 2 wins.
oh, sorry, they're 2 wins then. I didn't look at it correctly. I looked at it very quick. So with that being said, I'm going to have to agree with Justin. We're going to go Chicago plus 10. I think this defensive pass rush is just going to get to Nathan Peterman, and who hasn't really looked great himself in general. I think they're going to have the second biggest loss this week behind the Giants in their bye week.
Good joke, Vin. Good joke, Vin. I'm going to have to agree with you. I think Chicago win. Khalil Mack has looked like a dominant force on that team, and he's facing, in my opinion, the worst quarterback in the NFL. Maybe one of the worst quarterbacks in NFL history at this point. Nathan Peterman is not good.
He's even behind Nick Mullins.
He's no Nick Mullins. But going from one NFC North team, we're going to go to 2. The Detroit Lions are headed into Minnesota, where Minnesota is a 5-point favorite.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I'll go. Mini Winnie. We're going for the Minnesota Vikings. Detroit just got rid of Golden Tate.
Correct.
So that's one less weapon for Matt Stafford. This Minnesota defense, I mean, they're holding their own. And Adam Thielen, I think, is just going to keep on getting 100 yards. And I see them winning by a touchdown. So,
Justin?
I'm going to take Detroit. I need to separate myself from the pack, and I think this is going to do it. I have a lot of faith in Matt Patricia and what they're doing. They looked really good against a high-powered offense like the Patriots when they played them earlier in the year. I honestly think that Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones are going to get a lot more run with Golden Tate now being traded to the Eagles. I just think that they have all the weapons that they need, and it helps. So I'm going to go with a flyer here and take Detroit.
All right. Once again, I think Justin is leaning too heavily on his fantasy team because he has Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay. I'm going to agree with Vin. I'm taking Minnesota. I think they bounce back after a bad loss last week against New Orleans and Drew Brees, also known as the GOAT in Vin's eyes. I just don't think Detroit's really going to be – there's no reason for them to try at this point. Yes, they look good against the Patriots early in the season, but that's only because Matt Patricia knew how to coach against them. They really haven't looked great in any other games. There's a reason why this team is 3-4. I mean, it's a 5-point spread, but I think Minnesota can win by a touchdown. This could end up biting me, but I think after a bad loss, they're going to be playing at home. I think Minnesota has a good chance to bounce back, and I think the loss of Golden Tate is going to hurt a lot more than a lot of people are thinking. But going from one 0-16 team to another, we're going to look at the Cleveland Browns, who are hosting my fantasy hero, Patty Mahomes, and the Kansas City Chiefs. The spread is currently set surprisingly small, in my opinion. Kansas City is only an 8.5-point favorite in Cleveland after Cleveland just fired their head coach and offensive coordinator.
Interesting. I mean, you have to go with Kansas City. I'm going to be quick about this because there's not much to talk about. Kansas City has been one of the best teams in the league besides the Rams. I don't think there's any way you can really bet against them. Honestly, I just don't. I think that Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback for a rookie, but not at where he needs to be in order to put the Browns in a position to win this game. I don't think he has any of the weapons he needs besides Jarvis Landry either. But you look at the Kansas City team, they have Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce. They are everything that the Cleveland Browns are not. So I got to go with Kansas City.
Kansas City next.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Patty Mahomes, he might break the touchdown record this week. don't know why the spread's so small, but if you're a bettor, I would take this. Going on to Vin's favorite team, the New York Jets are headed to Miami, where Miami is a 2.5-point favorite.
I'm taking the Jets. I think they have to go 5-5 by the bye in order to have Todd Bowles keep his job at this point. And Tannehill's still out. He's not playing in the game, so I think that's going to be a big factor. And also why the spread's so low. I know Robbie Anderson hasn't really practiced. Tremaine Johnson's doubtful. But I think that the Jets will find a way to scratch a win at this point.
Okay, Justin?
Yeah, I'm actually with Vin here. I don't have a lot of faith in Brock Osweiler. I mean, I know he's either really good or he's like really bad. But I think this is going to be a bad game for him. Like Vin said, Robbie Anderson probably isn't playing. Neither is Quincy Enunwa. Probably isn't playing. Not having Tremaine Johnson out there really hurts you. But I do think that Sam Darnold and the Jets can scrape by and win this game.
I'm going to have to agree. I think the Miami Dolphins have been pretenders all season. I don't think they're actually that good. We'll see what happens when they finally get that late season win against the Patriots like they always seem to do. But until then, I'm not feeling Miami. I'm going New York. Moving on to another divisional game, one that you either love or you hate, depending on, just your personal preference. The Pittsburgh Steelers are facing the Baltimore Ravens, one of the more historic rivalries we've seen. Baltimore at home is currently favored once again by 2.5.
Wow, so they're not even giving the best Pennsylvania team the favorite.
That's debatable, but okay.
Highly debatable.
I guess I'll go first.
For that comment, you go first.
I'm going to go Baltimore. Baltimore's defense this year has just been a lot better than I expected it to be coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this whole James Conner being the best running back situation, I think that's getting too much of a steam.
Yeah.
And I think that their line isn't too great. The offensive line of the Steelers. So I think just Baltimore is going to take advantage and they're going to win the game.
All right. And Justin?
I am going to go with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's offense has finally found the stride it was lacking earlier on in the season. I think their defense has been better of late, and I don't believe in Joe Flacco enough to get past them winning this game. I just think Pittsburgh is a better all-around team, just in terms of offense, defense, but all of that. Yes, Baltimore's defense is great, but that's not going to help you if your offense can't score you any points. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
I'm going to disagree with Justin again. I'm taking Baltimore. I hate to be agreeing with Vin so much, but in this case, I think Vin's right.
He did this last week and this backfired.
I mean, this did a little bit backfire on us last week, and unfortunately, it was also Baltimore that did it to us because we would have all been tied if it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't even – I don't know what happened. Cam Newton, I guess he decided to be the tailback that he used to be once again, and this time I think that could be Lamar Jackson. I think this Ravens team is better than the Steelers team. I don't like this Steelers team. They blew out the Browns last week, but really they haven't looked great in my opinion. They haven't really beaten anyone that good. So I'm definitely going to take Baltimore in this because of the fact that it's in Baltimore. If this was at a neutral site or in Pittsburgh, I'd probably have a different opinion. But Pittsburgh on the road, I'm not feeling that. Going to the team that burned me last week, we have the Carolina Panthers, 6-point favorites against the personal hero of Vin and I, Ryan Fitzmagic, once again starting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Vin, I will let you start since you, like me, love the man.
I like the man. I am not a big fan of this Tampa Bay team. Living down here, I get to see them firsthand, and I think it's good that they are saying, "Hey, we could win this season. We could scratch and make a wild card spot." So let's start the better quarterback of the two. I had a whole tirade about that a few days ago. So uh, I'm gonna go Carolina. They're playing well the past few weeks, picking up a few wins, and they're pretty good. I think this is a divisional game, so I think they're gonna get up for this, and I think they're gonna win by double digits. So Carolina.
All right, Justin.
I'm gonna go with Vin here. I mean, you got to go Carolina. Cam Newton's playing like the Cam Newton that we all know he can be. Ever since that Washington game when he was leading them on the fourth quarter comeback, fell just short, but it happens. He's been playing out of his mind. The offense is in sync. The defense is anchored by Luke Kuechly, and now you have Eric Reed playing safety back there. I think they are a much better team than anything that the Buccaneers could ever trot out onto that field on Sunday, regardless of quarterback or anyone. I think at every position they have an advantage. So I got to go Carolina.
I'm going to go Carolina as well, but I disagree. I do not think Carolina is even that good. I think they're pretending. I think they stumbled into this 5-2 record. They haven't beaten anyone. They beat the Eagles. I don't care that we're Super Bowl champs. We suck. We're a terrible team. We can't close out a lead. That means nothing. And the Ravens last week, I do not. That was a fluke too. That was Joe Flacco. That had less to do with the Ravens being good and more to do with Joe Flacco being a terrible quarterback. But I'm going in Carolina because as much as I love Fitzmagic, I can't even bring myself to pick. But since we're all going the same way, just know I am 100% going to be rooting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week.
They're a dark horse for a wild card team.
They are a dark horse. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to be so close, and then our boy Ryan Fitzmagic is going to throw a bunch of picks in Week 17.
He's going to get a Jameis Winston factor.
He's going to 6 picks again.
What'd you say, Justin?
He's going to throw 6 picks again.
Yeah, probably.
5. How many interceptions did he have in that game against the Chiefs? I think it was
a lot.
It was like 5 or 6.
More than you want out of your quarterback.
Yeah. All right. So going from the quarterback who lost the Super Bowl only a few years ago, let's go to the team that won that Super Bowl on the back of a strong defense. The Denver Broncos will be hosting the Houston Texans and are 1-point favorites.
Where's that game?
In Denver.
In Denver? Oh, am I going? Sorry.
I don't know. One of you two.
Nobody said anything. This one's more of a toss-up for me.
Yeah, there's pretty much 50-50.
Well, that's pretty much every game. But Denver, I'm going to go Denver. I think it's going to take a little while for this connection for Watson and whatever. I forgot who they got.
Demarius Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be emotional for Demarius Thomas getting to play one game extra
in
Denver. I think Emmanuel Sanders will get more of targets.
Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders definitely going to get more touches. Cortland Sutton going to slide right into that role.
Yeah, and I think that Denver's a better defensive team, especially at home. This Houston team is still going to have to try to figure out how to play without Will Fuller. So I think Denver is going to scrape by with a win.
Justin?
I'm going to take the Texans. I think Demarius Thomas is going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder against his former team. I honestly have the most faith in Demarius Thomas and the Texans. I'm not sure Denver's defense is prepared for Thomas and Hopkins on the outside. I just think that they're a better team, better quarterback situation definitely for the Texans. I'm just going to go with the Texans.
I think it's weird that you're assuming Demaryius Thomas is going to play all that well. I mean, he hasn't really looked good the past few years, and he's playing in a brand new system. He only got traded here a few days ago, so I think it's a little weird that you think he's going to be as good as you do. But I am going to take the Texans as well, just because I think Demaryius Thomas, he's still competent. I think because now without Will Fuller, there's going to be even more attention on Hopkins. And I think that could leave Demaryius open for a touchdown. But I think if this is a bigger spread, I'm not feeling so confident. But I'm going to pick Houston here. I think they can basically win. You saw how much they were able to destroy the Dolphins. But if Denver wins this game, I don't think it's in any way because of their offense. I think it's because of a defensive score and Von Miller just being Von Miller.
Yeah, the only issue I have is that Denver has so much tape on Thomas, so they know how he's gonna. They know how he's gonna play. They know what he can do, what he can't do.
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to you saw how well Deshaun Watson was. I mean, how well Patty Mahomes was able to play.
Yeah,
both times against Denver. I think Deshaun Watson could kind of have a similar result. I think he's been really good this whole season, aside from when he was injured. So I'm gonna take Houston here. Just a little bit of gamesmanship to try and catch up to Vin because him and I have so many similar picks this week. Actually, that is the first different pick that Vin and I have this week. And if I'm going to be able to in any way catch up to him, I got to do something different once in a while. But getting on to a game between two teams that, well, I mean, they're kind of just here, I'm going to say. We have the Los Angeles Chargers heading into Seattle, where Seattle is a 1-point favorite at home.
Justin, you take this one because I had to think.
Okay. I think a lot of people are still hung up on the old Seattle defense and what it used to be. And also no one realizes just how good Phillip Rivers has been this season. Like, honestly, like he's having a career year and he's just playing out of his mind. I think he has like the highest QBR or like the second highest QBR ever when he's out of the pocket. So if he can leave the pocket, throw it downfield, I think they have a really good shot at winning. So, and like this isn't like it has to be the Chargers for me. I think Pete Carroll's going to somehow mess it up. Pete Carroll's is my Dave Roberts. So.
All right, Vin, it's time. The bell is tolling. What is the pick?
I'm going to go opposite of Justin. I'm going to go the Seahawks. They've looked pretty good. As I wrote Seahawks, I wrote the wrong team on my notes. But Seattle's looking pretty good. They're 4-3 this year, which is a lot better than I thought they'd be at 7 weeks with Earl Thomas going down and everything. But I can't believe in Phillip Rivers. He's let me down too much. So I think it's just heartbreaking. And KJ Wright, as I'm looking at the news on ESPN, is going to play. Well, according to Pete Carroll. So I think he's going to make the difference. And with such a small spread, it's just pretty much a toss-up.
Yeah.
And I believe that Seattle's home. And
Seattle is at home.
Yeah. So that's going to be a big factor. It's always tough to get a road win in Seattle.
Yeah, unless you're the Arizona Cardinals.
Exactly.
But here's the way I look at it though. Phillip Rivers basically plays an away game every time with the amount of fans that are actually cheering for the Chargers every week.
You got a point.
You have a point there, Justin, but I think Seattle at home is just different. There's nowhere like playing there. Like you saw what the Eagles did last year. They went in there and they got smoked. I think the Chargers could have a similar effect. I mean, Carson Wentz was having an MVP year last year, and he ends up going into Seattle, and he didn't look good. I love Phillip Rivers. I love the Chargers. They're 5-2, but they do have some injuries. Bosa's still out. They might be missing Keenan Allen this week. They're missing Melvin Gordon potentially. With all these injuries, I'm going to have to go with Seattle because I think it's the home factor that really decides it for me, with it being such a small spread. If this is like a 3-point spread, I might take the Chargers because I think this could be a field goal win. But I'm going to take Seattle. I'm going to agree with Vin here, as much as I hate to say it. And then going from one LA team to the other, we're actually going into probably the best game of the entire – there's two great games here back-to-back, but starting with the first one, we have the Rams heading into New Orleans to face the GOAT, Drew Brees, according to Vin Pensabene.
I like it.
However, your GOAT is not favored at home. It is a 1.5-point spread where the New Orleans Saints are home dogs.
I'm going to have to go with the Rams. As much as I love New Orleans offense, their defense can be suspect at times. And
you don't think Eli Apple is going to be a difference maker?
Not in this game. I think just that pass rush of just former first-round picks in the front is just going to be very difficult for any offensive line to guard in general. And they really haven't had too much of battles that they could say, hey, we are prepared for the Rams. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Rams are going to end up with the win.
All right, Justin?
I mean, yeah, I have to go with the Rams here, too. As much as it kills me to bet against Drew Brees at home in the Dome.
It's hard.
I mean, yeah, it's hard. I mean, you just look at it. You just look at the paper, and the Rams have the offense. They have the defense. I don't think the Saints have a way to really stop Andrew Goff and the rest of the
Andrew Goff?
Sorry, Jared Goff.
All the Goffs. They can't stop any Goffs.
It's been a long day. They can't stop any of them. Jared, his brother Andrew, none of them.
All right, well, as much as I want to take New Orleans here to try and make up a game on each of you, it's just hard to do because until I see the Rams lose, it's hard to pick against them. We might have been able to see it last week if Ty Montgomery wasn't terrible and drops a kick return. Fumbles the kick return. So I'm going to agree. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think they can stay undefeated going into their big matchup with the Chiefs. So that's that game. We go into a game that this year, I don't know how good a game it'll be. A few years ago, this was like the kind of biggest game of the season, but we have the Green Bay Packers heading into Foxborough to take on Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. And the spread is currently 5.5 New England.
It's a smaller spread than I expected.
I agree.
But Aaron Rodgers is, I would say, the most talented quarterback in the NFL.
Yes.
So I can understand that even without a Ty Montgomery to help out. But they don't have him. They don't have Clinton Dix. It looks like they're just resetting, which is horrible because when you have such a generational talent like Aaron Rodgers, you can't be wasting his prime years.
Yeah.
But this New England offense has just been really good. Josh Gordon, Julian Edelman, even with Gronk not looking like Gronk's self. And with running back issues, with Sony Michel missing last week. But I think that there's just too much talent on that offensive side. I think the defense for New England is going to eventually pick up. And I'm just going to have to go with Tom Brady.
I'm going to have to agree with you, Vin. I'm taking Tom Brady as well. Until the Patriots have that bad game this year, I mean, they had the game against the Lions, but that's all. It's always one of those interesting ones when you're going against a former coach of your own team. I'm going with the Patriots. Tom Brady, he's still Tom Brady. And as much as I love Aaron Rodgers, I don't love anything else about this Packers team except for Devontae Adams, and that's only because he's on my fantasy team. So I'm taking New England. I think they win by a touchdown, maybe by 10 or more. And I will now
10 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns.
That is a lot of touchdowns, Vin, but sadly, that's even possible.
I mean, yeah, I kind of got to go with the Pats. I would love to see Rodgers go in there and absolutely just destroy the – I would love to see them just absolutely destroy the Patriots. But, I mean, you have to go with what your gut says. And gut says Belichick is going to out-coach McCarthy regardless of how any of them play. I think it has to be Pats at home.
All right. And finally, the last game of the week, Monday Night Football, we have the Tennessee Titans heading in to face the Dallas Cowboys in a battle of two vastly overrated teams. What are we going to do, boys? What are we going to do?
Is there a spread, or are we just?
I mean, I guess I could tell you it, but I kind of wanted to just see what you think. It is a 5.5-point spread. Dallas is favored.
It's a lot of points, but I think Dallas. I'm going to take Dallas on that. I haven't been able to trust the Titans. Mariota hasn't really looked really good this year since he injured himself opening game. I don't know if they count if they say opening day, but since week 1, he looked a little weird, and I think Amari Cooper is going to be a big upgrade for them, and I think they are going to win by a touchdown.
All right, Justin?
I mean, yeah, just piggybacking off of what Vince said, I don't know if I have enough faith in Mariota right now to go in there into Dallas. The game, is it in Dallas?
It is in Dallas.
All right, yeah. I don't have enough faith in Mariota to go there in Dallas and pull it in. Maybe if it was in Tennessee, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. But I just think the whole Amari Cooper trade, it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. I heard he's going to get a decent amount of snaps. I just have faith in in Ezekiel Elliott and their running game. I just think it's going to be a win for the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, I'm gonna have to make it a three-peat. I'm going with Dallas here. I don't trust the Titans. They haven't looked good. They can't throw a touchdown to a wide receiver no matter how hard they try. So I'm going Dallas to win at home. I hate doing this when I'm picking all these NFC East teams. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I forgot a game. I'm so sorry. New York Giants versus the bye week. What do we got?
I'm going to go bye week 27-10.
Okay, Justin?
Wow, really? 27-10. That's a little low. I'm going to go 40-3.
All right. The bye week that they've looked a little tough this year, but I don't think they're quite that good. I think there's going to be a battle of two bad teams, both pretty much with only like one win. I think there's going to be a 2-0 win for the bye week.
I mean, it all really depends if Odell and the rest of the wide receivers decide to take another boat trip. Because we all know how well that worked out for them in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how the bye week treats them.
They have 4 wins since the boat trip.
Yes, but how many losses?
Over 20.
Yeah, because that was 2 seasons ago. Well, folks, I think that covers our thoughts on the NFL this week. Vin, before we end, do you have anything else? Because I know that you always feel like I interrupt you and cut you off too early.
All right, so we don't have to talk about them quick. I just wanted to bring up a couple of sports stories that I came across while we were waiting for you. Magic Johnson today pretty much said that Luke Walton has to win if he wants to keep his job, which
obviously,
yeah, which makes sense. And
coaching decision, yeah,
because obviously he wasn't the one that signed Luke Walton. Luke Walton was signed by Buss's brother.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackson today went on First Take, said that pretty much he didn't do his job correctly. He hasn't been winning. And said that the firing was all about Baker Mayfield and what's best for him in his career, which I think he has to say he probably wants another offensive coordinator job at some point. And I think he will get a job as a coordinator sometime.
I agree. I think it might take a year or two, but he still has some. When he's a great offensive coordinator, he's just a terrible head coach. When he actually has to, he's great at picking a play, terrible at making a call. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. The Lakers, I think it'll shake itself out. I think it's just a lot of jitters that they're still going through. It's a brand new team. It's all very different personalities with the way the Lakers kind of were allowed to run free the past few years with the social media and everything. And now you're bringing a lot of these older guys where I think it's taking some adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, it took the Heat a while to get it over 500 when LeBron first went there. It's just the adjustment period.
Exactly. I think LeBron, he's going to just shake it off and he's going to be fine. Justin, you got anything else?
Yeah, well, I mean, just going back off of what you guys said, I mean, playing with LeBron is unlike playing with any other player in the league. It definitely takes an adjustment period because even if you're a point guard, you go to, oh, so I'm not going to have the ball all the time. I'm just going to be the assist guy. And I know LeBron going to the Lakers, he wanted to get away from that. But at the end of the day, I mean, you are the greatest player in the world, probably the best of all time. Like, at this point, you are. So it's definitely going to take an adjustment period, especially for him, because he has to adjust to a new role where he's not the primary ball handler anymore. But, I mean, I think it'll all shake out pretty soon once everyone gets back on the same page, and I think they're going to make a good run for the playoffs.
All right, well, I think that wraps up the show. Now, Vin, I want to make sure before I do my outro, you are done.
I am done.
All right, well, thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been the 7th episode of the Long Islander podcast. You froze? Man.
No, you went for a second.
All right. Well, yeah, I just want to make sure we're okay. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been the 7th episode of the Long Islander podcast. We will hope to catch you next Tuesday. We're working on getting a more formatted schedule together, but please check our Twitter for updates. It is at Long Islander Pod. I am at JPotsandPans. Justin is at Froley393. And Vin is at VinPensabene on Twitter. We'll catch you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, Vin.